Yeah, let's kick it off. So, not James, Thomas, CFO and trading officer at GreenAir, Berlin-based decarbonization specialist for both the voluntary and compliance markets. Pleasure to have Julius here, who doesn't need an introduction at Sennder, but please go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm one of the co-founders and managing directors of Sennder. Maybe I'll quickly start with sort of a general introduction on the company. You already got some insights from James on how sort of fragmented and disrupted the market overall is. Sennder essentially focuses on the road freight segment of the European logistics market. It's a 400 billion euro market in total size. The segment that Sennder focuses on is the full truck load segment specifically, which makes up roughly 1/3 of the market, so 130 billion in total size. And within that market, we've built the company Sennder. We have been around for 8-9 years now. I launched the company originally with my two co-founders, David as well as Nico. We're roughly 1,000 employees in total size, and operate in the road freight segment in Europe.
Perfect, thank you so much. And it sounds like you have huge ambitions for challenging the market. Where is the focus on the strategic goals?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge market, and there's so much to do, and there's a lot of companies. I mean, we know DHL, which is in the same segment as ours. There's Köhler, Nagel, there's DB Schenker, etc. All billion-euro companies that operate in this road freight market. Now, it's actually so fragmented that the top 5 players, some of them I mentioned a second ago, make up less than 5% of the overall market share. So for us, the actual focus hasn't changed sort of since day one after a slight pivot, is that we really have the ambition to become one of the top 3 road freight forwarders in all of Europe. And in order to achieve that, we always said for us that we focus on the contract cargo segment, which makes up roughly 60% of the overall market. The other 40% is the spot segment. The difference between the two is that contract is really regular business, a daily transport from London to Berlin, whereas the spot segment is sort of loads that loads that occur during peak times. For example, when it's 35 degrees outside, Coca-Cola is extra transport volume, then basically these end up on the spot market. For us today, we have roughly 80% contract, 20% spot. And within that, we focus specifically on control towers, which is something that we've launched a while back. Our biggest control tower today is with Poste Italiane. The Poste Italiane is the national post of Italy, and we operate the largest road freight forwarder in all of Italy. So whether it's a postcard that you're sending home while you're on vacation or it's an Amazon parcel, it's being transported on one of our trucks. And essentially what we do as part of these control towers is that we basically take your entire road freight volumes, and we basically organize all of the transports and the shipments. And given the nature of the market, where on the one side we serve large enterprise customers, the likes of Poste Italiane, Coca-Cola, etc. On the other side, it's actually extremely fragmented, where 70% of all transport companies have less than 5 trucks in their fleet. So the infrastructure from these large enterprise customers is not made to deal with these small family-owned trucking companies. What we basically do then as part of these control towers that we compile and group all of these small road freight carriers. We manage all of the transports basically just ensure that the goods that need to be transported are picked up at the right time and are delivered at the right time.
Perfect, thank you. And I read an interesting figure that pretty much logistics is responsible for roughly 5% of the world's CO2 emissions. How can the freighting and shipping industry become greener?
Yeah, good question. Now, at first you might think 5% is not that much. Why don't we focus on the other 95% first? But it's a huge chunk, and I mean, we can actually have quite a significant impact. For the ones that are not from the road freight industry, a regular truck, the large-scale 40-ton truck that we primarily see on the highways today, consumes around 25 to 27 liters of diesel per 100 kilometers. I'd have to do the math to put that into miles per gallon, but you get the drift. And the majority of all trucks today run on fossil fuels, on diesel. What we have now, as part of the sort of the ongoing changes in the industry, have been focusing on are basically two things where we don't do offsetting. First is that we run HVO. HVO, hydrated vegetable oil, allows us to reduce the CO2 emissions by over 90% compared to fossil fuel. That is one thing, and we offer two different kinds. Whereas we offer HVO 100, where basically we drive with 100% HVO, or we offer a type of flex model where we can adjust the blend in order not to have quite or the full cost impact on the shipper, and then we basically develop a plan with them to step by step ramp that up to 100%. Second thing is we formed a joint venture with Scania. Scania, the truck manufacturer, is one of our biggest shareholders today, and we set up a joint venture with them specifically focusing on electric trucking. Now, electric trucking in the 40-ton segment is still quite rare. You see an electric truck from time to time here in the inner city distribution. But step by step, large OEMs, companies like Scania, Volvo, Mercedes-Benz, etc., are rolling out large-scale 40-ton trucks. The problem with these 40-ton trucks is that they're still quite expensive. A regular fossil diesel truck costs around 100,000 euros, 120,000 euros, and a electric truck costs roughly 3 times as much. So thinking of the market segmentation or fragmentation, where 70% of all trucking companies have less than 5 trucks in their fleet, you ask yourself the question, why would I buy myself one truck that costs as much as 3 diesel trucks? So as part of that JV, we basically make electric trucking accessible to the wider audience. It's a type of pay-per-use model where you get uptime guarantees, etc. Step by step, sort of introduce these electric trucks to the market. We've got a handful of them running today, and step by step are looking to ramp that up over the year.
Perfect. And then, because we're running out of time, maybe a last question. We read a lot about global supply chain disruption right now. Yeah. What are the challenges you're facing, and how are you addressing these?
Yeah. So I think James addressed quite a few of the problems, and I really liked sort of the yellow slide where you saw all the different stakeholders that are being involved in a single transaction. Now, that is actually the biggest problem is transparency in the market. Then second is sort of like the volatility of the macroeconomic environment in total at the moment, where you've got these spikes of volume from time to time, and then sudden drops, which is something that like the entire trucking market needs to absorb. And then thirdly is the driver shortage. Today, over 75% of all truck drivers are above the age of 50. So naturally, step by step, we're going to run into an even bigger issue there. So the long-term solution is only sort of streamlining the industry through technology, and then step by step introducing autonomous trucking.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.